PowerPoint lesson, we're going to talk about how we can use PowerPoint to create our own unique clip art. It's great to find things on Teachers Pay Teachers and other open resource websites that we can find. However, sometimes it's just fun to play around and see what we actually can create. What you see on the screen right now is clip art that was created by our very own ed tech students. So it can be done with a little help. Let's start exploring. Also on the left, you'll see that I've created some fun geometric pieces that are three-dimensional. They're like 3D monsters that I created. And I created each one of these within PowerPoint itself using basic shapes and just manipulating them. Let's first start off by creating a pencil. So the first thing I'm going to do is zoom in a little so I can have a detailed look at what we're doing. We're going to start with the base. So I'm going to insert a rectangle here. And I'm going to try to mimic what I have here, but yours can be any size or any width that you want. I'm going to fill my pencil in. I'm going to choose a different color, more of a pencil color, if you will. Maybe I'll just grab, we'll do this guy. So it's not the same exact color, but it still works. And I'm going to have a black border. The next thing I'm going to do is create these lines that are inside. So I'm going to insert a line and I'm going to hit Shift and I'm going to bring it down. I'm also going to move it over. I want two lines on my pencil, but I also want them to be black. So I'm going to Control Copy and Control Paste by hitting Control V, so that I create another line that's the exact same. I'm also going to select them both and see if I can't align them together. Ooh, not in the center. Align them in the middle. There. Perhaps the next thing I'd like to do is create the eraser down here, and maybe the little silver part of the pencil. So I'm going to insert, I'm going to actually copy my pencil and I'm going to lay it on top of each other, except I'm going to bring this down so that it was the exact same width. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so I can really get an idea of what it's doing. Okay. And then I'm going to color it in a silver color. Ooh, we still want a black border, but a fill of silver. That looks okay. And now I want to add in my eraser. However, my eraser here, I notice I have a rounded edge. So when I insert, I'm going to use a rounded piece here and just try to make it the same width as my pencil. Remember, you can get very specific by clicking here, and we see that it's 41/100ths of an inch, and I also see that this one is 41/100ths. I'm also going to fill this eraser in pink, and I'm going to also have a pink outline as well. But we have a problem because our eraser is on top of our picture, but we want to make it look like it's not. We want to make sure, it comes together. So I'm going to order my objects by sending it to the very back so that everything is on top of it. And maybe my eraser should be a little taller. Now we're going to go up here and we're going to work on the pencil. So we're probably going to need to have a triangle And notice our triangle should also be 41/100ths wide. And I'm going to make my triangle, that looks good, a little lighter than the pencil color. And I'm also going to have my border be the same, or try to have it be the same as well. Notice this one is not, but that's okay. To make the tip, I'm going to copy my triangle and put it right on top of my other triangle. I'm also going to fill it in black for the lead portion, and I'm also going to outline it in black as well. And then all I'm going to do is make the tip of it smaller. And I may need to zoom in a little so I can get real good detail here. All right, I see that it's lined up. I could even go in more if I wanted. There. Now I've got my pencil, perhaps how I want, maybe not. We want our pencil, we want to see the edge of my pencil there. So I'm just going to modify it just a little bit so I can see the edge of my pencil. You could even add in little circles if you wanted the little hump pieces where it would be sharpened, if you will. So now we've created a pencil. Even though it doesn't look exactly like my example, we still get the same idea. Also, it may be best to group our images, because notice my image on the left is grouped, so I can rotate and I can copy as many of these pencils that I want. So to remember to group, I'm going to grab my cursor and I'm going to highlight everything that we included. And under arrange, I'm going to group my objects together. So if I wanted to move everything, they all go together. Let's practice making a crayon. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so we can get some detail. Again, notice that my crayon is grouped. I can always, even though I've come back to this example, I can always ungroup my items if I want to. I can rotate them specifically, and I even can flip them if I want. So notice the outside of my crayon here we have is a rounded edge. So I'm going to start with the rounded edge. And try to make it kind of fat, if you will, like a crayon. That looks okay. And I'm going to pick maybe a different color. Maybe I want my crayon to be a green, but I still want the black border. You can have whatever color border you want. I'm also going to insert these lines here and here. So if I hold my shift key down, oops, let's try that again. If I hold my shift key down, I create a nice straight line. We probably want to have a black line. You could also just do a darker green too if you so wish, but I'm going to make it a pretty thick line. I'm going to copy this once here, and maybe a little farther down. And now I'm going to insert this little twirly thing here using one of my shapes. Let's do this shape here. Okay. We can't quite see it. It's a little light for us. I'm going to turn it into black and use the same thickness that I used here. And I've now created a little twirly. We could modify the twirly if we wanted, depending upon what we're doing. Or if I had these were a little shorter, we could do that as well. But notice mine is also just slightly different, but that's okay because this is your clip art and you can be unique. And I'm just using this as a show of what I'm up to. So I'm going to highlight I'm going to hit Shift and then choose all 3 of these pieces, and I'm going to group them together because I want to make a copy of them down here and I don't want to have to do it again. So I'm going to group them and then Control Copy, Control V for paste, and then bring one down here so that I have the exact same design. Now to create the part where you might want to put a label in if you so choose, or a color in would be great, or have students fill in the color themselves. We're going to put in an oval. I'm going to put it in the middle so we see it is in the center of our object looking at our red lines. I'm going to make the border black and then fill in with white. And maybe just make it a little wider. So if we do want to add something in, we could see. Now we need to create this portion of our piece. We can see that it's most likely going to be a triangle, but how do I get this piece eliminated? So I'm going to add in my triangle, and I'm going to make my triangle just a little, not as thick as my crayon, just a little thinner. And I'm going to slightly put it behind it, so it's as if it's underneath. So to do that, I'm going to send it backward, or send it to the back, and then I can modify it just a little bit depending upon how I want it to sit. That looks a little off center. Oh, there we go. And then I'm going to color it in the same color that I was using for my crayon. Now to get rid of this tip part, I kind of want it a little thicker for some reason. Or maybe I just need to make it taller. Maybe that's just the problem. Maybe I'm just being too picky. Yeah. Okay, anyways, so to get this tip to be not a pointy tip, I'm going to copy and paste a triangle on top of it. And I'm also going to zoom in a little bit so that I could get a, oh, we also want to have our border be the same green there. So I'm going to put this on top, and then I'm going to shrink it up so that it sits exactly on the tip of the triangle. And I'm going to fill it in white and border white as well. And now we see, just need to modify a little bit, and now we see that our tip of our triangle is gone. Just like our pencil, we want to go ahead and group all of our items together. So we'll hold down our mouse and highlight everything, all of our pieces, and then we will group them together so that even that white tip moves with us as we modify. One more piece to show you, a ladybug. So as you're developing clip art and as you're looking at clip art, you'll notice that they're just made of all these different shapes and manipulating of shapes. So as I look at my ladybug here, if I were to ungroup the ladybug, you would see that we have lots of pieces that are building this ladybug together. We're going to regroup them just in case I want to make a bunch of ladybugs, or in case I want to size my ladybug. Okay, so that's great too. When you are grouping, you can change the size of your item to how big you need it or want it to be. So the first thing I'm going to do is create the bottom of my ladybug. So I'm going to insert a circle. And I'm going to insert a perfect circle. So to do that, again, we hit Shift and we bring out our circle. Maybe make it a little bit there, a little bit less. All right, so the body we filled in with black, and I'm going to make sure that my outline is in black as well. Now on top of that, you see I have a heart to create the ladybug's body. And we do have a heart shape. Here we are. So if I'm going to create a heart, it makes me do it right side up, but we know we can flip items around and I can make sure that it's at 180 degrees. I see that my ladybug body is not all the way covered up, so I'm going to just kind of make my ladybug a little bigger. And I'm going to fill in this ladybug. Let's have this ladybug be pink. Or let's just do red. Let's just keep it the same, red. Now I want to create the ladybug's head. So I'm going to insert another circle, a perfect circle, and try to put it in the middle here. And fill it in and make the border black and then send it backward so it's behind. Okay, so readjust it to make it look how I want it now that it's behind there. To create the antennas, I'm going to insert a shape. So I'm going to start with a line, and notice that it gives me some points. So I'm going to start one of my lines going off in a slightly direction, and notice it gives you the length of the line. So maybe I want my length of the line to be a perfect, we'll just leave it at, see here, it was height and width, it was 62/100. I'm going to turn it black. You can thicken it up if you want, but I'm going to copy and paste onto here. And see if I can't also make it 62/100 like the last one for the height and the width, so that it's the same length on each side. Notice it's not quite attached, so I'm going to stick it so that it's attached to the ladybug. Okay. We want to create the little antennas. So I'm going to insert another perfect circle, hit shift, just make them pretty little. In order to manipulate them, sometimes it's easier to zoom in. And I'm just going to set it on top of our line here and then color it in black. I'm going to also copy and paste it so I don't have to try to make the same size again. There we go. We also want to create the little dots. And notice when I'm moving this one around that the top and the bottom are aligning with the right hand antenna. And that's what I'm curious about. I don't care if I'm aligning on the left or not. That doesn't make a difference. All right, I'm also going to copy and paste this so that I can make a pattern for our dots here. And I almost want them just a little smaller. So I'm going to make them 2/10 of the size, and I'm going to evenly distribute them, taking note of where the where they had lined up with each other, so that they are symmetric in a way. But maybe you don't want to have symmetric ladybug lines, and that's okay too. You can design them. Maybe you want your ladybug to have rainbow dots, or maybe you want your ladybug to be a different color for whatever purpose that you're using it, or maybe you want to have your ladybug to have different size spots. That's okay. Use your imagination. I encourage you, as you're trying to make your own clip art, to look at other examples of clip art and try to see if you're able to decompose that clip art into the different shapes that they're included in, so that you could create your own. Does it take some time to manipulate and get used to? Absolutely. But think about what might happen once you have a whole slew of clip art that you could design and create your own. You don't need to rely on teacher pay teachers. You don't need to rely on other people's work. You could create your own and make it unique for your own classroom. I hope this was helpful as an intro to clip art, and I hope you have fun designing your own.